Shalom uvracha, peace and blessing to all, and welcome to Hasidic Insights, spreading the wellsprings of the Baal Shem Tov and his students to the chutzah, to the outside world. Our sages say that the time will come when there will be a world that will not know war and will only know peace and harmony and goodness and brotherhood and unity. And that will be when the wellsprings of the Baal Shem Tov will be found everywhere outside. The name of something represents the essence. And Rabbi Yisrael Baal Shem Tov, whose name was Israel, master of the good name, represented the essence of what all can attain and aspire to. Yisrael represents the letters Li Rosh, to me ahead. And it is through the study of the Torah and the performance of the mitzvahs that we are then able to elevate the physical world to a spiritual level that will ultimately be one unified totally with God. Shalom, and good morning. In Dvar Torah, we have just completed the days of Pesach, Passover. Pesach reflects the idea of leaping higher to higher heights, to leap over obstacles. It also means the mouth should speak. We should tell of the greatness of God, our Creator, and the Creator of the universe, and of His wonders and His divine providence, which guides us throughout our journey on this world for 120 years and further, and in the world to come. The portion of Achrei Mos speaks about death. It speaks about the two sons of Aaron. Twice in the Torah it is described. Once is where they seem to have had shortcomings. And as Rashi explains, they brought a strange flame before God, unbidden, and seemingly therefore a negative, which brought about their death. On the other hand, there is the description where God's and the sages describe B'karvasam, when they came too close to God, seemingly wanting to become one with and on a higher level. And that also brought about their death. What is the message in these two stories or recounts of their death? And what can we learn from it? On the one hand, we must follow the Torah and the mitzvot, the commandments, and not stray into new paths and new ideas. And seemingly, as Rashi explains, they were drunk, shasuye yayin. Could that be of the two sons of Aaron, the Kohanim? And on the other hand, they were wanting to be too close. Is that a negative? Our sages therefore explain, and here we may have a deep insight, that we are here in this world as the gardeners, as the caretakers that make a difference, the custodians of God's world, God's universe. We can't leave it. God gives us a mission and expects us each day to tend the garden. In a physical manner, 6 days you shall work, Sheishes Yomim Taveh. V'yom HaShvi, on the 7th day, you shall rest. And therefore, if you want to be too close to God and sort of forget your physical responsibilities in this world, that is not acceptable. And on the other hand, we have the directions of how we are supposed to tend this garden through the Torah and the mitzvot. And therefore, if we bring a strange flame, it does not better the world. It in fact harms it, and therefore causes the opposite of life. Passover has in it, and especially this year, that it occurs on the eve of Shabbat, the first Seder, Friday night, and therefore everything corresponds in the counting of the Omer to receive the Torah on the 50th day later on, that it is synchronized with every day of the week. And that is a very high level to be able to attain, and does not always occur in the calendar. From here we must learn something, and here I would like to share with you something that is divine providence. For divine providence and direction is always there for all of us in every detail, and brings us to complete our mission in one way or another each day. The Lubavitcher Rebbe would write tens of thousands of letters to people all over the world, and on all the continents, and in all places, and all types. And in whatever way it was, it always led to good, to enhancement of Torah, of the mitzvot, and especially of their fulfillment. In that vein, I had this past week, right after Passover, Pesach, the need to go to one of the areas where I have my responsibilities to help spread Yiddishkeit, and that was Sarasota. And going to meet a young lady at my office there, I also was given an added mission to take a young man of some 20 years old to see and visit his grandparents. I agreed and took Dovi down to his grandparents. As I was preparing to enter into the unique dwelling that they had, I realized that I wasn't going there because I had wanted to or planned it, but because God had somehow given me a mission to go there. And so I took my tefillin with, as I want to do. And when I came upstairs, and I sat before this 93-year-old World War II veteran, and we started to talk, and his wife, of approximately the same age, he told me that he had met the Lubavitcher Rebbe many, many years ago, when he was in the Merchant Marine. And he had sat at his Farbrengens, which is his gatherings, which were always in Yiddish, 99% of the time. And he had a question afterwards. So he went over to the Rebbe and he asked him the question in Yiddish that he had on what the Rebbe had said. He was wearing his uniform, and he was wearing his medals. And suddenly before the Rebbe there appears this tall, very tall, young Jewish merchant marine soldier, and he asks him in Yiddish this question. The Rebbe, with his deep blue penetrating eyes, looked at him and responded to his question and wanted to know, how is it that a young man born in America, it seems like in the late 40s or early 50s, was able to speak Yiddish? And he asked him a question about what he had spoken about. And so he told him that his grandmother spoke Yiddish at home, and that's how they spoke Yiddish at home, and therefore he knew Yiddish. This young man went on to go to war, and from there, though his ship was torpedoed, God saved him and his other comrades. And when the time came for the establishment of the State of Israel, he, amongst others, took 2 shiploads of Jews from the war-torn shores of Europe and ran the blockade to Israel, what was to become Israel, and brought approximately 5,000 Jews to the Holy Land, the land of Israel. This young man became a doctor and discovered a special medicine for the heart. And he wrote a letter to the Rebbe, which was transmitted through his shliach, Rabbi Moshe Feller, to the Rebbe, on the various articles that were written about this particular discovery. The Rebbe responded in a letter to him, which I'm going to share with all of you because he gave it to me to share. But it all ties into what is ultimately Hashgacha Pratis, the divine, detailed direction of a person's life. So there sat my film on the kitchen table in Sarasota. And Moshe Meir Ber asks me to read this letter that he had from the Lubavitcher Rebbe, which he was very proud of. He says, read it out loud. So I said, sure. So he gives it to me. And this letter is also in the month of Nisan, many years before. And here you see how the words of a tzaddik will always bear fruit. By the grace of God, Rosh Chodesh Nisan, in the year 5739, which is 1989, Brooklyn, New York. The Rebbe writes, Dear M.B. Bekaner, Doctor, greetings and blessings. I was pleased to receive your regards to our mutual friend, Rabbi M. Feller, together with the reprints of your scientific papers in the American Journal of Cardiology. Inasmuch as everything is by divine providence, and your valuable research work has come to my attention, though entirely out of my field, I am impelled to make a general remark, being confident that you will not take it amiss. It is human nature to be highly impressed by persons achieving distinction in various fields, particularly in medical science, and especially in cardiology, since physical health is everybody's primary concern. Thus, people tend to be influenced by the personal life and views of the people they admire or feel indebted to, far beyond the immediate area in which they excel. This imposes a moral obligation on the latter to use their influence for the benefit of the many in terms of promoting the higher values in life for a better and nobler society. All the more so in the case of Jews and the Jewish people, being a tiny minority in a hostile world. Jews have always had to work for their very survival, and this task has become even more urgent after the Holocaust, which has decimated our people both physically and spiritually. Unfortunately, the attitude of the world towards us has not changed much, if at all, for the heirs and followers of the Nazis and their ilk are still rampant. Hence the greater obligation and urgency for every Jew, particularly Jews of prominence, to do all one can for the preservation of our people through fostering Jewish identity and commitment in an active form, in the everyday life. Or to put it in another way, the test of a theory is in its practical application, a principle which is not foreign to a scientist. I therefore wish to express my confident hope that you are endeavoring to be a source of ever-growing inspiration to your fellow Jews by example and precept. And may God bless you with hatzlacha in this and in all your endeavors, with esteem and blessings and best wishes for a kosher and inspiring Pesach, the Rebbe's signature. Now here it is, 2016. Say almost some 40 odd years later. This letter, as I read it, and then looked up at Mr. Bekana and said, well, would you like to put on film? And he said, for sure. Sure. The deed is the key. And so he went and got his yarmulke and his talit, which you can see is a talit from the 30s and the 40s, puts it on with the blessing that he remembered, and the blessing on the tefillin, and then went ahead and said the Shema, verbatim from memory. The first and the second paragraphs. So here I am in Sarasota, seeing the hand of divine providence and fulfilling what my Rebbe always wanted, to encourage Jews to do the act of the mitzvah, not just the spiritual or the thought of the mitzvah, but the actual deed. For lo ha-medrash yikar, it's not enough to just study. Elo ha-ma'aseh, the actions, the doing, ethics of our fathers, PK, others, stresses. And so it is wonderful to be able to see that there is the physical world and there is the spiritual world, the guidance from above. And so we come back to the two sons of Aaron and the message that we must always remember, that it's not enough to talk about. It's not enough to think about, but we must do. We must do the mitzvah. And that brings us to the connection of the sons of Aaron. There's a special prayer that is said on the holidays, and on Yom Kippur, and on Rosh Hashanah, which speaks about, and I'll quote here, it's found in all the prayer books, the Sfard, the Ashkenaz, I looked at all of them, where we say on those holidays, and so may it be your will, God our God and God of our fathers, to grant us the merit to perform deeds that are good in your eyes, and to walk before you in the ways of the righteous. Sanctify us with your commandments, and may we merit a good, long life, and the life of the world to come. A very clear indication that life does not cease in this physical world. Guard us from all evil deeds and from evil times that may rage upon the world, and kindness will surround him who trusts in God's power. Amen. So what does it tell us, and what does it teach us? That we must trust in God. It's not a chaotic world. It's not helter-skelter. There is a guiding hand. We must never forget that. A benefactor friend of mine once asked me, Rabbi, I work so hard to succeed so much, but I'm not sure that when I'm not here, that my children will follow in my footsteps, in my legacy. You tell me that there is a world to come, but no one has come back, so to say, and told us about it. What does Judaism say? And I quoted him this. I said to him, we can't do anything physical in the world to come, but we can set things up here, that what we stood for, and what our parents and grandparents and great-grandparents stood for, which was Torah and Yiddishkeit and the mitzvot and the learning of those, that they will continue even when we're not here. And therefore we can then benefit from our efforts and toil, whether it be through an annuity or a foundation, even in the world to come. We are here to take care of this world, to garden in the garden that God created for us, and to better it. And it does not end when we are gone. We still have that ability. And that is a message to all of us in our journeys through life, that we should have that trust and knowledge, as we can see from the very existence of the Jewish people, where we are still here, not an archaeological dig in the desert, but a living, breathing, phenomenally successful and accomplishing people, that there is a continuance of life. It does not cease with the physical body or with the physical world. And again, as Ethics of Our Fathers says, this is the corridor leading to another world. And so let this be a reminder to all of us that Passover does not just mean that we pass on, but it means to leap higher, it means to study the Torah, and to create vehicles that Torah will be continued to be studied by the future generations of the Jewish people, and for that matter, all of mankind. It's not the football games, and it's not the culture, and it's not the art, but the eternal wisdom and knowledge of God that was given to us as caretakers at Mount Sinai. And the guarantors are our children. And we must create the vehicles that will endow them with the finances to study that Torah, so that their parents cannot say they don't have enough money to teach them. Thank you, and we look forward to speaking and thinking and doing in the future together with you. Shalom uvracha, peace and blessing.